You sit down to finally start. Everything's in place. You've got time. You've got a plan. Even the coffee is sitting there like a tiny bodyguard for your productivity. And then the weirdest thing happens. Not laziness, not exhaustion. It's like your body says, no. Your shoulders get heavier, your eyes go dull, and a thick silence settles inside you, like the moment right before you jump into icy water. You look at the task, and it feels like someone just asked you to deadlift without warming up, and your brain doesn't negotiate, it just kills the start button. And the most infuriating part is how ridiculous it looks from the outside. Just open the laptop. Just begin. But on the inside, it feels like physical resistance, like you're pushing your forehead into an invisible wall, and you can't understand it. Why can I get up and make tea? Why can I turn on a video? But I can't start this one thing. Here's the truth almost nobody says out loud. Starting isn't about motivation. Starting is about safety. And if your brain decides that starting is unsafe, it will do everything it can to keep you from going there. Even if the danger isn't real, but social, even if it's just an email, a workout, a phone call, studying, a project, you've been running around all day, you're tired, but you still tell yourself, okay, I'll pull it together and do one important thing. You sit down at the table, you open the laptop, the cursor blinks in an empty document, and for some reason, that blinking starts to irritate you, like a water drip that's somehow too loud. You try to start, you type one sentence, and then your brain tosses you a small, reasonable thought. First, you need to understand how to do it properly, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And 2 minutes later, you're Googling examples, looking at other people's templates, opening 10 tabs, and suddenly the task is heavier than it was before. And then comes the moment you recognize instantly. You catch yourself in that place where you're not working, but you're not resting either. You're stuck in the middle, in the gray zone. You're scrolling, but there's no enjoyment. You're watching videos, but you couldn't even tell someone what they were about. And the whole time, in the background, there's this thought, I need to start. It presses on you, but it doesn't move you. And when you finally tell yourself, all right, that's it, now, your body pulls one more trick. It suddenly feels heavy. Standing up feels hard. Breathing feels like effort. And you explain it like this, I must be tired. I must have no discipline. Maybe I'm just that kind of person. But it isn't discipline. The problem is that your brain saw a threat in the start, and it switched on the don't move mode. Because your brain isn't your coach. Your brain is your security guard. Its main job isn't make you successful. Its job is don't let you mess up in a way that hurts. And that security guard runs on a very simple logic. If it isn't sure an action is safe, it will slow you down every time. Starting a task is a moment of uncertainty, and your brain reads uncertainty as risk because at the start, you're not in flow yet. You don't feel in control. You're stepping into a zone where it's possible to make mistakes, to get disappointed, to see your own not good enough, to feel shame, to get rejected, to fail. And here's the key point. Your brain takes physical threats and social threats equally seriously. To the ancient part of your brain, messing up and losing face is dangerously close to getting kicked out of the tribe. And being kicked out used to mean death. So even today, your nervous system can react to email your boss almost the same way it reacts to walk into the cold without clothes. Not because you're weak, because the system is old and it's still following the same operating manual. And when your brain labels the start as a threat, it triggers what you could call protective energy saving. It doesn't always look like panic. Most of the time it looks like heaviness, fog, zero, desire, loss of clarity. It feels like you lose access to the part of your brain that plans and executes because your brain reallocates resources into survival mode, minimize risk, avoid sharp moves, find fast relief. And the most vicious part of this mechanism is that it disguises itself as logical reasons. Your brain won't say, I'm scared. It will say, I need to prepare more. I'm not in the right mood. I should do something easy first. I'll start when I have more time. And it all sounds smart until you realize you've been saying the same thing for 3 days. That's why starting can feel physically impossible. Because it's not, I don't want to. It's my security system is yelling stop. Here's where you actually lose control. Not in the moment you get stuck scrolling again, but about 30 seconds earlier, when your brain runs a risk assessment and quietly taps the brakes. You think the decision to start is a willpower decision. In reality, that decision has to pass through an internal scanner, safe or not safe. And if that scanner catches even one red flag, it doesn't argue with you. It just makes starting feel heavy. The red flags are usually like this, and you'll recognize at least two. First, the task is too vague. When you tell yourself, I need to work, your brain hears, I need to walk into fog and do something in there. Fog equals danger. In fog, you can't control the outcome. Second, your self-worth is on the line. When the task secretly sounds like, if I do this badly, it means I'm stupid, your brain hates that bet. It doesn't want to test it in real life. Third, the chunk is too big. When the task looks like a mountain instead of a step. Then starting feels like the beginning of a marathon, and your brain goes, I won't be able to handle this, so don't even start, so you don't have to feel the defeat. Now, the triggers that pull this emergency brake most often. Trigger 1, the perfect image in your head. You imagine how starting is supposed to look, confident, smooth, instantly in flow. And if reality doesn't match, your brain says, then don't start so you don't ruin the picture. Trigger 2, past experience. If you've tried before and it felt awful, your brain doesn't remember the words. It remembers the sensation. It stores starting equals pain. So next time it raises the barrier in advance. Trigger 3, low energy and overload. When you're already running on empty, every start becomes expensive. And your brain doesn't choose what's important. It chooses what's easiest just to survive. And now the hidden cost, because this is the real moment of truth. You think you're just postponing, but you're actually paying in 3 currencies. First, attention. You keep the task running in the background all day, and it chews on your brain in tiny bites. Second, confidence. Every I didn't start again becomes micro evidence that something is wrong with me. Third, your relationship with yourself. You start talking to yourself like you're a problem person who needs to be kicked into action. And that one kills starts more than anything, because your brain doesn't initiate in an environment where it's being humiliated. It protects itself even harder. So here's the most important idea. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're just trying to start in conditions where your brain detects a threat and turns on protection, like a car alarm that screams not because you're a bad driver, but because someone tugged the handle. Your job isn't to force yourself. Your job is to turn off the false alarm, lower the threat, make the start feel safe. Now comes the protocol. Not be mindful, not believe in yourself. Concrete actions that work because they go around the security guard instead of fighting him. And yes, sometimes they look almost too simple. That's normal. If the step looks stupidly small, it's the correct size for a real start. Step 1, define the opening shot. Not the task, not the goal, the shot. The very first movement you could film in 10 seconds. For example, not write the script, but open the document and write a title. Not work out, but put on your shoes and stand by the door. Not learn English, but open the app and do one lesson. Your brain fears the beginning because it's foggy. You remove the fog. You tell your nervous system, look, this isn't a mountain, it's one step. What it looks like in real life. You want to work, but you freeze. So you make a rule. I don't have to work. I only have to launch the opening shot. Open the laptop, open the right folder, write one line. That's it. And here's the magic. Very often, after the opening shot, your body loosens up because the start was the most dangerous part. You crossed it, and the guard relaxes. Step 2, make the start ugly. Yes, on purpose. Because perfectionism isn't love of quality, it's fear of mistakes. Your brain won't start when it thinks it's being judged. So you remove judgment in advance. You say, I'm starting badly. My job is to make a draft that would be embarrassing to show anyone. And your brain goes, oh, if we're allowed to be bad, this is safe. My self-worth isn't at risk. It sounds weird, but it actually flips the system. Example. You need to write an email. You write the first version like an emotional teenager, messy, short, clumsy. Then you edit, You need a plan? You make a dumb 3-point plan with zero beauty. You need to train? You do a shame workout, 2 push-ups, 10 squats, done. You're not proving you're a hero. You're proving to your brain that starting doesn't kill you. Step 3, close the dopamine escape door. This isn't about willpower, it's about environment. If your phone is next to you, your brain always has an emergency exit, and the moment it senses threat, it will run there. So you build a physical barrier for 20 minutes. Not forever. Not delete all your apps. Just 20 minutes. Put the phone in another room or in a drawer. Set a timer and tell yourself, for 20 minutes, I'm not solving my life. I'm just doing the opening shot and a little bit more. Your brain tolerates discomfort better when it knows escape is available later. It's like telling a kid, you'll play after homework. The fight drops. You sit down, set a 20-minute timer, remove the phone, open only what's related to the task. And you're not trying to be productive. Your only goal is don't switch away for 20 minutes. After that, it's easier because your system has learned there's no danger, we can handle this. Step 4, move the task into the body. When starting feels physically heavy, you should not begin with your head. You begin with your body. The simplest method is micro-movement plus breathing. It releases the freeze. The pattern is stand up, open your shoulders, take a long exhale, then another, and only then sit down. Or if you're already sitting and stuck, stand up, take 10 steps around the room, come back, sit down. Why does it work? Because freeze is a body response. You can't beat it with the thought, get it together. You loosen it with movement. You open the laptop and lock up. You stand. You do 3 deep exhales, like you're letting air out of a balloon. Then you sit and do the opening shot. It looks silly, but your brain reads, okay, we're moving, so we're not in danger. Action is allowed. Step 5, the 2-minute continuation rule. Don't confuse it. You started, but now you need a small push of inertia. You tell yourself, after the opening shot, I continue for exactly 2 minutes, not an hour. 2 minutes, your brain agrees. And then the effect often kicks in. You're already in motion, and stopping becomes harder than continuing. But even if you stop, you still win, because you're training the most important skill, starting without drama. What it looks like, you open the document, write the title. Now you spend 2 minutes writing anything about the topic, even trash. Timer rings, you're allowed to stop. And if you stop, you still did the main thing. Your brain experienced that starting didn't kill you. Tomorrow will be easier. And here's the key detail. This protocol isn't something you use once when you feel inspired. It's training. You don't wait for it to feel easy. You make the start small and safe, and you repeat. Because your brain learns from experience, not promises. What success looks like after a week isn't, I became a different person. It's that the start stops being a wall. It's still not always pleasant, but it no longer paralyzes you. You notice you start more often without dramatic negotiations. You slip less into that gray zone of scrolling with no pleasure. And most importantly, you begin to trust yourself, not because you're productive all the time, but because you can launch even when you don't feel like it. Starting feels physically impossible, not because you're lazy, but because your brain is trying to protect you from a threat it drew itself. And when you stop breaking yourself and instead lower the threat with a small step, an ugly start, a closed dopamine door, and a body-first reset, the start stops feeling like a jump into icy water. It becomes a step on dry ground. Remember this one line, if you can't start, it means your safety system thinks it's dangerous. Make the beginning smaller, and the danger disappears. And if you want, the next video can unpack why I understand everything, but I still don't do it, and how your brain turns knowledge into just another form of procrastination.